You watch someone command a room with just a few words. Everyone leans in when they speak, listens, remembers what they said long after the conversation ends. Meanwhile, you talk more, much more, and people's eyes glaze over. They nod politely while planning their exit. You're saying more, but they're hearing less. And you can't figure out why your words don't land when theirs do with half the effort. It's not about volume. It's not about being louder or funnier or more impressive. It's about weight. And weight comes from knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. From saying exactly what you mean without decoration. From being so present that your words carry the force of your attention behind them. Most people think attraction is about addition. Be smarter, funnier, more charismatic. Fill every silence with something interesting. But the Stoics knew different. Attraction isn't about what you add. It's about what you remove. Stop performing. Stop seeking approval in every sentence. Stop filling silence because you're uncomfortable with it. The moment you stop needing attention is the moment you start getting it. This isn't manipulation. These aren't tricks to get people to like you. This is about communicating in a way that reflects actual character instead of manufactured charisma. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The same applies here. Don't perform interest, be interesting, through how you speak and how you don't. Today, I'll show you 6 communication principles, each demonstrated through specific words and phrases that make people want to be around you. Not because you're performing, because you're present. Number 4 is the one people get backwards. They think saying more makes them more interesting. It does the opposite. If you're tired of talking without being heard, let's begin. Phrase number 1. Tell me more about that. 4 simple words, but watch what they do. Someone mentions they just started learning guitar. Most people immediately respond with their own experience. "Oh, I played guitar in college. Let me tell you about my band." Or, "You should try this method I used." They hijack the conversation, turn it back to themselves. The other person was opening a door. You walked through it talking about your house instead of exploring theirs. Now they're listening to you talk about something they didn't ask about, waiting politely for you to finish so they can either reattempt their story or just give up entirely. You do this differently. They mention the guitar. You say, "Tell me more about that." Then you stop talking. You actually listen. Not the fake listening where you're planning your response. Real listening, where you're curious about what they're going to say next. And here's what happens. They light up, because most people spend their entire lives waiting for someone to actually want to hear what they have to say, not waiting for their turn to talk, not pretending interest while thinking about something else, actually wanting to know. This isn't a trick. You can't fake genuine curiosity. People feel the difference between performed interest and real attention. If you're not actually curious, don't ask. Silence is better than fake engagement. But when you are curious, when someone mentions something and you genuinely want to know more, those 4 words open everything. They talk longer, go deeper, share things they don't usually share because they're not used to someone actually caring about the answer. And here's the part people miss. They don't remember what you said in that conversation. They remember how you made them feel. Feeling heard is rare. Feeling like someone actually wants to understand you, not just wait for their turn to perform, that's even rarer. So when they leave that conversation, they're not thinking, "Wow, that person was so interesting." They're thinking, "Wow, I felt interesting talking to them." And that feeling, that's what makes them want to talk to you again. Epictetus taught his students, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so we can listen twice as much as we speak." He understood that listening isn't passive, it's active. It's where real connection happens. You're not there to be impressive, you're there to be interested, and interest Genuine, unhurried interest in what someone else is saying is magnetic in a world where everyone's performing. Watch what changes. Conversations go deeper faster. People open up to you in ways they don't with others. You become the person they seek out when they want to talk about something real. Not because you gave great advice or told fascinating stories. Because you made them feel heard. That's the power in those 4 words. Not in saying them, in meaning them. The second phrase people avoid because they think it makes them look weak. It does the opposite. Phrase number 2, I don't know. 3 words most people are terrified to say. Someone asks your opinion on something you're not familiar with. Your instinct is to fake it. Make something up that sounds intelligent. Deflect with a vague answer that could mean anything. Dance around the fact that you have no idea what you're talking about. Because admitting ignorance feels like admitting weakness, like you're less than, like you should know this, and the fact that you don't means something's wrong with you. But watch what actually happens when someone fakes knowledge. You're in a conversation, they're asked about something they don't know, but instead of saying so, they manufacture an opinion, and you can feel it. The answer has that hollow quality, words that sound right but mean nothing. They're performing confidence they don't have, and now you're wondering if they're willing to fake certainty about this. What else are they faking? Can I trust anything they say with conviction? The fake knowledge doesn't make them look smart. It makes them look insecure, like they need you to think they know everything. Now watch someone who's actually confident. Same question. They pause. Then, I don't know. That's it. No explanation about why they don't know, no apology for their ignorance, no deflection to something they do know. Just 3 words, delivered calmly, like it's not a crisis, that there's something they're not an expert in, and immediately you trust them more. Because if they're honest about what they don't know, they're probably honest about what they do know. Their certainty, when they have it, means something. They're not performing. They're just being straight with you. This is what Socrates understood when he said, I know that I know nothing. It wasn't false humility. It was the recognition that wisdom begins with admitting the limits of your knowledge. Insecure people need to appear knowledgeable about everything. Confident people are comfortable saying, I don't know, because their value isn't tied to having every answer. They're secure enough to admit when they don't. Here's what changes when you start using these 3 words honestly. People relax around you. They're not competing with your ego anymore. They're not bracing for you to one-up them with superior knowledge. And when you do speak with certainty, when you actually know what you're talking about, they listen. Because you've established that you don't just say things to sound smart. You say things because they're true. Your words carry weight because you've proven you're willing to admit when they don't. The trap is using I don't know as false humility. Oh, I don't know anything about that, followed by a paragraph demonstrating you actually know quite a bit. That's just another performance. When you don't know, say it. Then either stay quiet, or if you're genuinely curious, I don't know. Want to figure it out together? But don't fake ignorance. And don't fake knowledge. Both are performances. Just be honest about what you know and what you don't. That honesty is more attractive than any amount of manufactured expertise. If you've said, I don't know this week when you could have faked it, if you chose honesty over performing expertise, comment, I chose truth below. Not to announce what you admitted you didn't know, just to mark the moment you valued being honest over being impressive. That choice, repeated quietly, is what builds real trust instead of fake authority. The third phrase saves you from the trap most people fall into when someone shares a problem. Phrase number 3. That sounds difficult. Someone shares a problem with you. Work's been overwhelming. Their relationship is struggling. They're exhausted trying to keep everything together. And your first instinct, the thing everyone does, is to immediately offer solutions. Have you tried? What if you just, when I was dealing with that, You think you're being helpful. You're not. You're dismissing them, because what they heard wasn't, "Here's a solution." It was, "This is simple, why haven't you figured it out yet?" Most people don't share problems because they want you to fix them. They share because they need to be heard, because they've been carrying something heavy, and just saying it out loud to someone who actually listens makes it lighter. But when you jump straight to solutions, you're telling them their struggle isn't that complicated, that if they just did this obvious thing you thought of in 5 seconds, the problem they've been living with for months would disappear, and now they feel worse. Not only do they still have the problem, now they feel stupid for not having solved it with your simple solution. Watch what happens instead when you say, "That sounds difficult." 3 words. You're not fixing, you're not minimizing, you're not comparing it to your own experience. You're just acknowledging that what they're going through is hard. And that acknowledgement, that simple recognition that their struggle is real, gives them something they're not getting anywhere else. Permission to feel how they feel without having to defend it or solve it immediately. They keep talking because you didn't shut them down with advice. You made space for them to process out loud. And processing out loud with someone who's not trying to fix you is how most people actually figure out what they need to do. Not from your solution, from hearing themselves think while you listen without judgment. That's the gift, not your wisdom, your patience. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Most people do the opposite. They're strict with others. Just do this, it's not that hard, and tolerant with themselves when they struggle. But real strength is being patient with other people's difficulties while holding yourself to high standards. When someone shares a problem, they're not looking for you to be strict with them. They need tolerance. Understanding that what's hard for them is hard, even if it wouldn't be hard for you. Here's what changes. People start bringing you real problems, not surface complaints, deep stuff, because you've proven you won't immediately try to fix them or minimize what they're feeling. You'll just listen. Validate, make space. And that space, that rare space where someone can be struggling without being judged or fixed, is where real connection lives. You become someone safe, someone trusted. Not because you have all the answers, because you don't pretend to. If they want advice, they'll ask, "What would you do?" Then you can offer something. But even then, offer it as your experience, not as the solution. When I dealt with something similar, this helped me. Might not work for you, but it's there if you want it. You're not the expert on their life. You're a witness to their struggle, and sometimes being witnessed is all someone needs. Number 4 is the hardest discipline. Most people never master it, but it's what makes everything you say actually matter. Phrase number 4, silence. Most people are terrified of it. A pause in conversation and they panic. Fill it with words, any words. Observations about nothing, stories no one asked for, commentary that adds nothing. Because silence feels like failure, like the conversation is dying and it's your job to resuscitate it with more talking. So you talk, and the more you talk, the less anyone listens. Because words without weight are just noise, and you've trained everyone around you that your words are noise, constant, low level, easy to ignore. Now watch someone comfortable with silence. They're in a group. Everyone's talking, they're quiet. Not because they have nothing to say, because nothing worth saying has appeared yet. Someone asks them a question. They don't answer immediately. They pause, 2, 3 seconds. Actually think about what they're going to say. Then they speak. One clear point, done, and everyone's listening. Because the silence before they spoke made the room lean in. The pause signaled, what's coming next matters. And when they finish, they don't fill the space after. They let the statement land, let other people respond, or let silence sit there if that's what's needed. Here's what that silence does. It creates weight. When you speak rarely, your words carry force. When you're comfortable with quiet, people become uncomfortable with it around you. They fill it, and in filling it, they reveal themselves. You learn more about someone in what they say to fill an awkward silence than in an hour of normal conversation. They show you who they are when they're uncomfortable, their patterns, their insecurities, what they're actually thinking versus what they perform when they're comfortable. But it only works if your silence is comfortable. If you're sitting there anxious, desperate for someone to talk so the awkwardness ends, they feel that. Your discomfort makes them uncomfortable. But if you're genuinely at peace with quiet, if you don't need constant verbal stimulation to feel okay, that calm is contagious. They relax, and relaxed people are honest. Performed people are careful. You want honest. Seneca wrote, "Silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life." He knew that people who talk constantly are often running from something, their own thoughts, the weight of what they've experienced, the discomfort of just being with themselves. But people who've sat with real suffering learn that silence isn't empty, it's full of presence, of attention, of the ability to just be without needing to prove you're interesting every 30 seconds. When you master this, when you're genuinely comfortable not speaking unless you have something worth saying, watch what happens. In groups, people start looking at you when they want a real opinion, because you don't waste words on safe takes and obvious observations. When you speak, it's because you actually have something to contribute. One-on-one conversations go deeper, because you're not filling every pause with surface talk. You're letting the silence do the work. And silence is where people go deep. They say things in the quiet they'd never say in constant chatter. This isn't about being cold or withholding. It's about being present enough that you don't need words to fill space. Your presence is enough. And that presence, that rare comfort with just being, is magnetic. If you just realized you've been filling silence because you're uncomfortable with it, if number 4 hit differently, subscribe so you remember this when you're about to talk just to fill space. Like this, so someone else learns that saying less makes their words matter more. The 5th phrase recognizes something people are desperate for but rarely receive. Phrase number 5, I appreciate you, not thank you, not thanks for your help, not I appreciate what you did. Those are transactional. They acknowledge actions, services rendered, tasks completed. Someone helped you move, you say thanks. Someone covered your shift, you say you appreciate it. The action, the thing they did for you, but I appreciate you. Those 3 words do something different. They acknowledge the person, not what they did, who they are. Watch the difference. Your friend shows up when things are hard, again, like they always do. You could say, thanks for being there. That's fine, polite, correct. But it's about the action, being there. Now say, I appreciate you. You're not thanking them for showing up this time. You're recognizing that they're the kind of person who shows up. Always. That's character. And you're acknowledging you see it. You see them, not just what they do for you. Who they are when nobody's asking them to be anything. People are desperate for this recognition. The world treats them as functions. At work, they're what they produce. At home, they're what they provide. They're constantly being measured by output, by what they do. And somewhere deep, they're starving for someone to see past the doing and recognize the being. To say, I see who you are, not just what you've done, and who you are matters to me. This phrase doesn't work if you scatter it everywhere. I appreciate you for passing the salt. No, it loses all weight. Reserve it for real moments. When someone shows you consistency. When you notice their character, not just their actions. Your colleague stays late to help you meet a deadline. Don't just say, thanks for staying. Say, I appreciate you. You always show up when it counts. Now you're not acknowledging the late night. You're acknowledging their reliability, the pattern, the person. Marcus Aurelius started each day thinking about the people around him, not what they did for him, who they were. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." He knew that recognizing someone's existence, their character, their value as a human beyond their utility, that's rare, and rare things are valuable. When you're the person who sees people, not just their actions, you become rare too, and people want to be around rare. Here's what changes when you start saying this, really meaning it. People become loyal, not because you're useful to them, because you make them feel seen. In a world that reduces everyone to what they produce or provide, you're the person who sees them as complete humans, flawed, consistent, worthy of recognition just for who they are. That's magnetic, not in a manipulative way, in a human way. We all want to be seen. Most of us never are. When someone actually sees us, not what we do, but who we are, we don't forget that person. Use it sparingly, mean it completely. And watch what happens when people realize you're not just thanking them for their labor. You're recognizing their character. That recognition creates bonds that transactions never could. The final phrase is the one most people are terrible at. But without it, nothing you say actually matters because your words won't be respected. Phrase number 6. No. One word, the hardest one to say. Someone asks for your time, your energy, your presence at something you don't want to attend. And your instinct is to say yes, or to say maybe, or to invent an excuse that sounds legitimate enough that they can't argue. Anything except the simple truth, no, because no feels harsh, feels like rejection, feels like you're being difficult or unreasonable or not a team player. So you say yes to things you don't want to do, with people you don't want to see, at times that don't work for you. And every time you say yes when you mean no, you teach people your time has no value, that you're available to everyone for everything, that your boundaries don't exist. Watch what happens to people who can't say no. They're exhausted, resentful, overcommitted to things they don't care about while having no energy left for what matters. Their calendar is full, their life is empty, because they gave all their time to other people's priorities and kept none for their own. And people don't respect them more for their availability, they respect them less. Because someone who says yes to everything is saying their own time isn't valuable enough to protect. And if you don't value it, why would anyone else? Now watch someone who can say no. Someone asks them to do something. They pause. Actually consider if they want to do it. If they don't, no, I can't. That's it. No lengthy apology. No invented excuse about being busy. No maybe next time that leaves the door open for future pressure. Just no. Simple, clear, final. And the person asking might be surprised, might even be annoyed. But they respect it. Because this person just demonstrated something rare. They know what their time is worth, and they protect it. Your yes only matters when your no is real. If you say yes to everything, your yes means nothing. It's not a choice, it's just your default setting. But when people know you're capable of saying no, when they've heard you set boundaries before, your yes becomes valuable. When you show up, they know it's because you chose to be there, not because you're too weak to refuse. Epictetus taught, first learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. Most people say yes without considering what it means. It means your time, your energy, your presence, all finite resources. Every yes to something unimportant is a no to something that matters. You just didn't say the no out loud. You said it silently to yourself, to your goals, to the things you claim are priorities but never have time for, because you're too busy saying yes to everyone else. Here's what changes when you start saying no honestly. People stop assuming you're available. They become more thoughtful about what they ask from you. And when you do say yes, they value it, because they know it's a real choice, not a weak surrender. You reclaim your time, your energy, your ability to focus on what actually matters instead of being scattered across 100 obligations you never wanted. Say no without apology, without excuse, without softening it with false maybes. Just no. Your time is yours. Protect it. And watch how much more people value your presence when they realize it's not guaranteed to everyone for everything. Boundaries don't push people away. They attract the ones worth keeping and filter out the ones who only wanted you because you couldn't refuse them. These 6 principles, curiosity, honesty, validation, silence, recognition, and boundaries, they're not tricks. They're character made visible through how you communicate. And character? That's what actually attracts people, not your words. Who you are when you speak them. Notice what they share. None require performing. They require presence. Being interested enough to listen, secure enough to admit ignorance, patient enough to validate without solving, comfortable enough with silence that you don't fill it with noise, attentive enough to see people beyond their utility, strong enough to protect your time. The Stoics understood, attraction isn't addition, it's subtraction. Stop trying to be impressive. Stop filling every silence. Stop saying yes when you mean no. The moment you stop performing is the moment people start paying attention, not to what you say, to who you are when you say it. If this changed how you communicate, subscribe. Share it with someone who talks more than they listen. The most attractive thing you can do. Stop trying to be attractive. Just be present. Everything else follows.